Hello everyone! I specifically titled this video, Who is the man that purchased the New York Mets? For a specific reason. It seems a lot of people are confused, who are not affiliated with sports, on who this person is. Well, I will give you a proper introduction on Mr. Stephen A. Cohen. Who is this person, you may be wondering? Well, he is somebody who knows a lot about money, knows a lot about the moolah. So, I will read to you this article I found from 2012 about Mr. Stephen A. Cohen. So, at the time this was written, in 2012, he's a hedge fund manager who is part of a group called SAC Capital Advisor. So, they, of course, know a lot about stocks and stuff like that. So, we'll read more about Mr. Cohen. So, he actually started in Connecticut back in the early 90s. Only $25 million. Net worth of Mr. Stephen A. Cohen, even to this day, for him, is $14 billion. And, of course, billion with a B. And, of course, people are employed. So he knows how to create jobs. And he knows how to be successful. So he's part of the example of the American dream. So, Grand Slam returns. So, portfolio manager. I don't want to read any more about this. But you get an idea of how, how this man conducts himself. He's a Long Island native, grew up in a middle-class neighborhood, and of course grew up in a middle-class family and had a lot of siblings. Okay, so according to this, Mr. Cohen is 64 years old. He grew up in Great Neck, Long Island, and I'll explain to you why he has ties to me at Long Island Jewish in just a second. So, his father worked at a dress manufacturer, and his mother was a homemaker who also taught piano lessons. So in high school, he worked at a supermarket. So I'm assuming this was sometime in the 1970s. Let's read this. So this is funny. He only made almost $2 an hour at a supermarket back in the 1970s. Oh, boy. He graduated from Wharton University, also graduated from Great Neck High School. So, in the late 1970s, went to the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. So, let's just assume this is the mid to late 1970s, of course. He was a professional gambler. Oh, boy, where do you hear that, too? So now we're going to go into his life back in the 80s. So, he would trade them in between classes. Oh, okay, so he's been trading since the 70s. Anything else? A Grunow and Company and became a legend on its first day. Interesting. So he was part of that boom that the bank industry was giving to New York back in the mid to late 1970s. Very interesting. So, a boutique investment banking and brokerage firm, junior trader in the Operation Hatterbridge Group. He made $8,000 his first day, and then he would get $100,000 a day. So pretty much, at the age of 22, he was already a millionaire. Ah, okay. So in the 80s he was he was the big shot. Okay. Right. All right. Then in 1992, wait a minute. He got into he got into astronomy? Hang on here. Let me read this. Oh, okay. So Gruntenhold started his hedge fund. Interesting. Okay. So it seems this person also likes science. Well, that explains why he, I guess, purchased Cohen's Children's, which we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to the important part in 2010. Ah, okay. So this is the trading floor. So it's pretty much stocks. Now, this is why Steve Cohen, I guess, does have a heart. Look at this. He hired an in-house psychiatrist for his traders. So you know this person's not selfish. You know? That's a good thing. Ah, okay. So he became popular back in the late 90s and 2000s. Let's read more about this. Ah, okay. So never mind about the astronomy part. That was just I guess what happened in a specific year. Ah, look at this. Look how successful this person is. You know, this guy is an example of the American dream. You know, few of us get it. Alright, so now we're going to get into his wife, who actually also owns Cohen's Children's. Alright, so late 70s, he got married to his first wife. The marriage didn't last long. Well, that's sad. So he married his first wife and then was divorced in the late 80s. Years later, Patricia tried suing Cohen, alleging he was running a racketeering scheme and hid millions from her. Okay, I don't know what this is about, but that's personal. That got dismissed in 2011, so that had nothing to do with Steve not currently owning Cohen's Children's. So we'll get into that. So this is his wife, Alexandria Cohen, which if you've ever been to Cohen's Children's in New Hyde Park, you would know that her name is on the building. And again, I know this because that's where the cafeteria is, and I'll again get into that. But this is his wife. She's also an avid Mets fan. Ah, interesting. So she's Puerto Rican. She's from Washington Heights through a dating service. And they currently have 4 children. Very interesting, I will say that. And they currently live in Connecticut. They're in Greenwich. Okay. So they have a basketball court, an indoor pool, and a 6,734 square foot ice skating rink. Well, if you own the New York Mets, a couple of the players are going to want to come to your house now. So, Steve, be prepared for your phone to go off the hook. Because that's going to happen. Okay. That's corny. He doesn't like being called Stevie. I don't think I've ever called him Stevie. I just always referred to him as the man who owns the Children's Hospital LIJ. You can actually thank my boss for giving me an introduction to him, I guess, at Northwell. I don't name names, but you know when this is a person who ultimately owns a Major League Baseball team, you know, he's incredibly media shy. So, Evan Roberts and Craig Carton, you better be prepared for this. There are very few photographs of him. Okay. Oh, I don't need to know that. So he collects art. So again, this person has a lot of interest. You know, I don't need to know about his personal life. No offense. You don't get involved in a man's personal life unless it's that personal. So he's been an art collector for 20 years. Wow. And he still plays poker. Wow. Right, so we know about the Mets. So let's go into the background of the Mets. Now, does this article mention anything about him owning the Children's Hospital at Long Island Jewish? Because he does own the hospital. Not all of it, but just the Children's Hospital. Which is one of the best in the country, by the way. Interesting. So he had a minority stake in 2012. Very interesting. So this is back in February of 2012. 4% minority stake. Of course, the Will Ponzi's. Right. I don't want to get into this. So there are other rich billionaire hedge fund managers, but we're not going to get into that because then I don't want to give them attention. This is all about Mr. Steve Cohen. So now, let's read on how he owns the Children's Hospital at Long Island Jewish. So, it used to be called Schneider's Children's Hospital. And this is the story, I guess, at orientation with my boss back in 2015. She did tell me this story. So, used to be Schneider, and then Steve Cohen purchased the hospital in 2010. So, they purchased the hospital, the Children's Hospital, for $50 million back in March 2010. So, at the time when it was known as North Shore LIJ, parted earlier in March 2010 after the Schneiders requested their name be removed from the hospital. Right, so they only wanted to focus on the Children's Hospital in Israel, but we don't know about that. So, this is very interesting. The Schneiders previously had owned the hospital ever since they opened at Long Island Jewish back in 1983. So, Schneider, of course, was a part of the hospital back in the 1960s. Of course, when the hospital was booming, in its earlier development. So, obviously that's important. And of course, we know the hospital the way it is today. I will mention back in 2016, Steve Cohen took out a loan to renovate the cafeteria at the Children's Hospital. The loan ended up being successful. He paid it off. The cafeteria at a time, and I specifically remember this, was under renovation. The final result was perfect. If you have been to the hospital, I will tell you, worker, as per me, or visitor, you will know that the cafeteria is great. You have the seating, you have the booths even for a couple spaces. So, very big indoor space that was invested by Steve Cohen and his wife Alexandria. And of course, they expanded the bed capacity at Cohen's. So, obviously, I am thrilled about this because rumor had it that Northwell was supposed to get 10% minority ownership. We don't know anything about that at this particular moment. It's only minority, so it's not a big deal. But, you know, there is a possibility that maybe players from the Mets could come visit the children in the hospital down the line in the future. I would hope that would be the case. So, this was what Steve Cohen had said when the sale went through today. The Major League Baseball owners did approve the sale today of the Mets to Steve Cohen. He said earlier today, "I am humbled that MLB owners have approved me to be the next owner of the New York Mets. Owning a team is a great privilege and an awesome responsibility. I would like to thank the owner and Commissioner Manfred and his team for welcoming me to Major League Baseball. And I want to thank Mr. Fred Wilpon for inviting me to buy into the franchise in 2012. Fred is one of the great game's true gentlemen, and I consider it to be an honor to be the new owner of this iconic franchise. Most of all, I'd like to thank Met fans for their unwavering support throughout this process. My family and I are lifelong Met fans. We're really excited about this with free agency starting on Sunday night, November 1st. We'll be working towards a quick close. Let's go Mets." So, I want to mention that Mayor Bill de Blasio tried to stop the sale of the Mets to Mr. Steve Cohen. So I will take you to my Twitter, and I will show you the tweet that de Blasio tweeted earlier today. And I quote, "The New York City Law Department had completed its legal review of the proposed sale of the Mets. New York City has no objections, and the Mets can now proceed with the transaction. Hashtag LGM." So there you have it. So now with free agency starting on Sunday night, the question now goes into, what is Steve Cohen welcoming himself into? Well, let's recap 2020 for the Mets. I did a recap video. And by the way, congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers winning their first championship since 1988. That's a big deal for them. So now Steve Cohen wants to be better than the Dodgers and better than the Yankees. So let's figure out how this process could maybe make the Mets contenders in 2021. So the future looks bright. You know, Met fans, you should be very grateful for that. So the Mets finished the year off in the 60-game season at 26-34 in last place in the division. So they were tied with the Nationals for last place pretty much. I guess that's how things went in this lopsided year. So we all remember how Brodie Van Wagenen made the mistake of getting Edwin Diaz. So far, it's proven to be a disaster. Robinson Cano still has production on him left, so I wouldn't do credit to him. So the Mets are going to have a lot of problems, and Steve's going to have to invest a lot of money into this team because right now the Mets team pitching, Steve is going to have to worry about Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard because they will both be free agents in 2021, right after the season is done. I've known about this day since 2015, of course. Honestly, I hope that they can stay in New York because those are two guys that are part of your team and you can't get rid of them. All right, so the Mets are going to have to worry about Wilson Ramos. There is another free agent catcher available the Mets could try to get. Rene Rivera, you can resign him on the cheap. Shinjiro's another guy you can get on the cheap. You know, they don't they don't want to be selfish to Steve Cohen, please. Steve needs to put more money into something else. Okay. So, also you have the return of former general manager Sandy Alderson. Remember, Brodie Van Wagenen is no longer GM, and thank goodness, because Met fans wanted to run him out of town, which they did. First base, Todd Frazier, somebody else you could keep around. You can also get him on the cheap if you're Steve Cohen. Jed Lowry and Eduardo Nunez. I mean, I don't know who would you keep as a backup third baseman. Shortstop, I wouldn't be worried about that. Yeah, J.D. Davis. The problem is now, Juan Lagares, who has been a lifelong Met, I would do anything to re-sign him because another veteran who you need in your clubhouse. You can't get rid of Juan Lagares. I'm sorry, but Juan Lagares has got to stay. So I don't know how much they could sign him for. But I would keep Lagares. I'm sure down the line, if Conforto still produces, maybe he gets a contract extension. Because again, with Steve Cohen, all the money that Steve Cohen has, another person who I think could get a contract extension is due for him sooner or later. If he hits 25, 30 home runs next season, and knocks in 100 runs batted in, you could, keep Conforto around. Dom Smith, another crucial piece. Now remember, Yoenis Cespedes opted out of his contract. So, bye-bye, Yoenis Cespedes. Nobody needs you in New York anymore. So, pitching. I'm sorry, but Porcello was awful. Waka, I don't know what to say about him, but Porcello had a terrible year. DeGrom was okay. Remember, it was a 60-game season. Obviously, if DeGrom had more games, maybe he could have gotten his third Cy Young award. Because honestly, we know either way DeGrom's going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's no question. Him and Clayton Kershaw are going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. But you got Rick Porcello. And he needs to go. He needs to go. I'm sorry. I'd say bye-bye to him. Now, Seth Lugo. Why was he injured? I have to look that up. Why was he injured? Oh. I don't see anything here. Why is he sidelined? That doesn't make any sense to me. But that's somebody who should stay in the bullpen. I'm sorry, but Seth Lugo is not a starting pitcher. And Gazelman, somebody else who should not be pitching in the starting lineup. I'm sorry, but Seth Lugo is a better reliever than a starting pitcher. I'm sorry, but you have to be insane if you think that Seth Lugo is going to be a starting pitcher next season now that Steve Cohen can invest into this team. I'm sorry. But right now, if I were to give, I guess... Wait a minute. Where's Steve Matz? Okay, this is completely wrong. Where is Steve Matz? Let me look him up. Nothing on Steve Matz. Okay, that is odd. No. No. Where's Steve Matz? Yeah, like I figured, Steve Matz is still on the Mets. Right. Oh. See, that's the thing. Roto World, shame on you. How do you not have Steve Matz on here? Oh. And speaking of Steve Matz, right after SNY went off the air with their special report, they actually aired Steve Matz's first career start in Major League Baseball. From 2015. I still remember watching that game live. Oh, never mind. Here's Steve Matz. Why is he in the relief pitcher spot? No, this is completely wrong. No. So I'm like, I should have scrolled down and realized where Steve Matz was. Alright, so now let's just get into our last point in the video. Now, Trevor Bauer. Let's talk about free agency. Could the Mets maybe get someone like Trevor Bauer? There's a chance the Mets could get somebody like this. I can see that happening. DJ LeMahieu, he's going to stay with the Yankees. I wouldn't worry about that. I am worried about Brett Gardner because he may be leaving. They didn't keep him today. Let me think. Who else did the Yankees let go today, in a sense? Let me find out. I know it was Gardner. I know they got Britton back for the Yankees today. Let me see. That's not it. Here we go. Right, J.A. Happ. Now, if the Yankees got rid of Happ, I wouldn't be upset about it because obviously Happ is not somebody who I wouldn't keep around. But the Yankees don't keep Gardner. You can't get rid of Brett Gardner. No. He's that good to let go. Now, here's who I think the Mets could get. And they should have got this guy before they even considered looking into Wilson Ramos. This guy. JT Villamuto. This guy right here. Okay? Now, he's okay. He can help you get production in the lineup. Now, for the Mets, this is the big prize right here. Mr. George Springer from the Houston Astros. There's a chance that Houston can give him a big contract. But if I was Steve Cohen, I would be looking at getting Mr. George Springer. Because, looking at the outfield depth, and I see this right here, let's say you don't keep Juan Lagares. Let's say he goes somewhere else. And again, Marisnik you can get in the cheap. But Lagares is going to want a lot of money. Because Lagares is a valuable piece of the Mets. But if you get Lagares back, there's no need to get George Springer. You need to focus on pitching. The pitching is the problem right now. Ozuna, maybe. I don't know if I would go after Ozuna. I mean, Ozuna's good, but I wouldn't just jump the gun and just think I'm going to get Ozuna. I would not do that. Now, Stroman. Would you keep Stroman if you were the Mets? Maybe. I don't know. Stroman should be a last result if the Mets can't get Trevor Bauer, which Bauer's at least going to want money, but I don't know. I mean, if Steve Cohen is giving him the most lucrative deal to come to the Mets, then obviously I would go to the Mets. Jackie Bradley Jr. Okay, maybe. I wouldn't know. Nelson Cruz. Oh, boy. He's going to stay in Minnesota. Now, I could see this happening, maybe. Michael Brantley going to the Yankees. This is a possibility, because if the Yankees don't get Gardner, the Yankees can focus on getting Michael Brantley. Yeah. Well, there's a chance. Yeah, the Mets don't need another reliever. They have too many of those. No. Gregorius is not going to Anaheim. Anaheim doesn't even have pitching. Justin Turner. Well, we know the controversy with him. Now, about joining the World Series celebration after testing positive for coronavirus. Yeah, I thought so. Sorry, the Mets not going after this guy. Yeah, Tanaka's going to stay. Tanaka's staying with the Yankees. But you never know. I mean, there's a chance that Cashman and Cohen end up having a bidding war over Masahiro Tanaka. If he went to the Mets, that would be insane. You never know. Crazy things can happen in baseball. I'm just trying to see if any other starting pitchers are available. Sorry, folks. I'm just looking for pitching. There's one guy in San Diego the Mets could look into getting. He's a good middle rotation guy. He was all the way up at 50. No, I'm trying to look for pitching or outfielders. Because that's what the Mets should be focusing on right now. Because if the Mets are going to want to contend for the National League East next season, I'm just saying, it's still possible they could. Anything is not out of the question with, Steve Cohen. Jock Peterson. I don't think he's going to leave the Dodgers. No. That's not happening. Why would Jock Peterson leave the Dodgers when he just won the World Series with them? That kind of doesn't make sense. Jose Quintanilla. I wouldn't take a risk. I like this one maybe. Maybe. Jake Odorizzi. Okay, this is not bad. Now here's the problem. If you do want to take a chance on Odorizzi, he has injury problems. I don't know how much Steve Cohen would want to pay for Odorizzi, but Odorizzi's not a bad guy. In the past, he has been reliable. Like I said, I'm not seeing any outfielder. It's just mostly infielders who I'm seeing, and no pitching. Big James Paxton. Okay. So if I'm Steve Cohen, I might be in another bidding war over James Paxton. So there's a possibility Steve Cohen goes after 2 pitchers from the Yankees. I wouldn't rule it out. Nope. Mike Minor, maybe. He's a middle rotation guy. Adam Wainwright. I don't know about this one. When I go after a 39-year-old pitcher, Steve Cohen, I'd be careful here. Oh, Yasiel Puig. I mean, maybe the Mets go after this guy. I don't know. Maybe. There's a chance they could. I mean, for the outfield depth, that might pay off. Reason why Puig didn't play this season was because he had a positive COVID test back in July. He was supposed to play for the Braves, but that didn't end up the way it was supposed to. Oh, Rich Hill. Yeah, another decent middle rotation guy. Maybe. But I want to go after this guy. Corey Kluber's a free agent? Oh, if I'm Steve Cohen, I might look into this guy. He's okay. He had an off year because of the 60-game season. You play in Texas. I mean, that's not a good place to play right now. This is who I would focus on. Garrett Richards. Yep. Now, this is interesting. Charlie Morton. Let me go back to 16 for a second. Sorry, folks. Let me look him up. The Rays declined his option. Oh, I am going after this guy. Mike Sereno. Tampa might be blowing up their team. The Mets could get another catcher. Oh, this is too funny. Oh, if you're Steve Cohen, you're going to enjoy playing with your new toy that is the New York Mets. Oh, This is gonna be just like playing those old baseball video games you used to play as kids. Oh my goodness, I wonder how crazy the salary cap will be. I can't. Alright, so, I think I'm gonna wrap up this video just to give you an idea of what the Mets' future looks like. Look, I don't like to do videos on the Mets. I really don't. But when it comes to, I guess, a situation where you have a man who knows baseball, I guess, hopefully time will tell. Hopefully it won't be another bad chapter of Mets theater. And maybe the Mets actually contend for the National League East and pray we get a full 162 next season. Please. Nobody wants a 60-game season next year. Please. Can we just have 162 games? Some normalcy next year? I don't know if there's a game on every day at least. Sorry for yelling, but, you know, I'm like Mad Dog. Chris Mad Dog Russo will be in agreement with me. Alright, so thank you all very much for watching. I do hope to be at Citi Field next season. I do hope I'm back at the ballpark because I miss Citi Field. Even though I'm a Yankee fan, I like the ballpark. It's a nice place. You haven't been to Citi Field, you're missing out. Beautiful ballpark. Great place to watch baseball. It'd only be better if the Mets were winning, but only time will tell. Thank you all for watching. Till the next one, please take care.